So, welcome everyone to the September 10th, 2024 regular council meeting. And I will begin with a land acknowledgement that the City of Fort Saskatchewan is located on Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation of Alberta District 11. We recognize that we stand upon the land that carries the footsteps of many Indigenous peoples, including the Nihilwak, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, and Métis. And the city honors the First Peoples of this land and is committed to fostering reconciliation through relationship building, knowledge gathering, and education. And because we have some guests in our audience today, just for housekeeping, in the event of an emergency, the emergencies are over there and over there, and if the alarm should go off, follow staff. They'll get you to the muster point. That's probably the best advice I can give you. Okay, they'll let you know which way we have to go. But we don't anticipate any emergencies, so that's a good thing. So, welcome everyone. We will begin with a motion to approve a consent agenda. Somebody? Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I'll move that council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. And the consent agenda has item 3.1 minutes and 9.5 advocacy letter for a advocacy letter. So I will ask if anybody wishes to have these items severed and dealt with separately. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I'm looking at the agenda that came with the package. I see 3.1 has an asterisk. I do not see 5.1 and or whatever one it is you're talking about.
9.5.
9.5. That's so. Those are the two consent items only.
Yes.
And is it clear on there that it's just those tiny asterisks that are consent agenda items?
Yep. Yep.
I know that, but if you look up here where it says consent agenda, it doesn't tell me what's included.
Okay. Okay,
just
so
for future
typically
reference.
We have a little asterisk by consent agenda on the top so that it shows that those are the ones, but those are the two items. All right, so not seeing a request for anything to be severed at this point in time and dealt with separately. I will close the motion and please cast your vote on the consent agenda. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So item 3.1 was approved under consent. So the next item that we have is delegations. So we do have people who are registered, Curtis Smith and or Daryl Henderson. So if you'd like whoever is going to speak, and I understand it's on the disc golf, please come forward and you would have 5 minutes. So just for the record, just pull that down, turn it on, just for the record, state your name and which item you wish to speak to, and they will start a timer for you.
Okay. I am Curtis Smith. I am speaking to the feasibility study for disc golf. Good afternoon, Your Worship, Mayor Ketcher, and council members. My name is Curtis Smith. I'm a leading member of the Fort Saskatchewan Disc Golf Club. I'm joined by my partner, Daryl Henderson, and he spoke at our proposal this past October. I would like to start by sharing the growth and involvement our Fort Saskatchewan Disc Golf Group has had in the community since we started in April of 2023. So in the summer of 2023, we held 5 events with the goal of promoting the sport of disc golf to people of Fort Saskatchewan. This led to our proposal to the Mayor and Council in October of 2023. We continued our work this spring and summer by hosting 7 additional events. Our most memorable events include the following. Our first event we were able to beat the city to the punch by hosting a cleanup Legacy Park event in April. We also were able to partner up with Dow Chemical to set up a 3-hole disc golf course at their family event in June. In August, we made our second appearance at Fort Black Society's annual barbecue, which we have been invited to come back to next year. And additionally, we hosted both a women's throwing clinic, where we had a turnout of over 40 women in the area, and a youth clinic with help from the 2023 provincial champion of Alberta Youth Disc Golf. We've also been promoting the sport to schools in the community. This has resulted in physical education teachers from South Point School, Rudolph Hedig, Fort Saskatchewan High School, reporting that they are teaching disc golf in their schools and signing out the free portable baskets from the Dow Centennial Center. Additional evidence that our work is paying off is that we have reached over 200 members of our Facebook group, and we have recorded a total of 150 different people that have come to our events since June of 2023. We are very grateful to have had the opportunity to collaborate with the president of Nordic Ski Club, as well as members of the Recreation Department of the City of Fort Saskatchewan. And we were able to meet and discuss locations best suitable for a disc golf course. And we support the results of the scoring matrix that is in the report that states West River's Edge Northeast is the best suitable space for a 9-hole course. If it is decided to build a disc golf course in any of these locations, our efforts will not only continue, but they will increase. Having a course will mean that free events will be easier to host, and the sport will be much more accessible to the people in Fort Saskatchewan. While we are thankful to have portable baskets provided by the city and the Dow Centennial Center, it requires from 1 to up to 3 hours to set up and 1 to 3 hours to take down at the end of our events, depending on how many holes we decide to put up. With a home base that's free for the public to use, we will be able to host and organize casual league nights, tournaments, clinics, and many more community events with ease, and people will be able to play disc golf at any time that works for their schedule. This is one of the many great qualities of disc golf.
You have 1 minute.
Okay. We believe that disc golf is a sport that promotes a healthy lifestyle and is inclusive by nature and is a good fit for the open green spaces in the city of Fort Saskatchewan. We would like to thank your worship and the council members for taking the time to consider the report completed by the City of Fort Saskatchewan's Recreation Department, and we are very grateful for every minute that is spent considering our request for a disc golf course in Fort Saskatchewan. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'll open it up for any questions. Go ahead, Councillor Macon.
Thank you. Thank you for coming today. My question is that I think Council's anticipating a pretty difficult budget year this year. So I'm just wondering if your group has at all considered some private fundraising events that might help contribute towards this amenity.
Okay. We have considered what it takes to become an association, and we have had talks with other disc golf associations in the area, and we have spoken about the possibility of that. At this moment, our decision is to not go in that direction as we don't have a home base, and so but our group is willing to discuss that so that we can do that fundraising if we do have a home base, if we have a disc golf course here in Fort Saskatchewan.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kelly.
And again, thank you for showing up. You did a good job, by the way.
Thanks.
But along the same lines as Councillor Macon, you mentioned multiple times in your comments the word free. Nothing is free. I'm sure we can agree on that. It just means that if you're not paying for it, or if I'm not paying for it, somebody else is. Why do you believe that disc golf, and I understand it's a fairly low cost endeavor to the municipality, but why do you believe disc golf should be free to the users?
Just generally, it has been a free amenity, just like others like soccer fields or basketball courts for people to use. And the time, like it's different than club golf in that you do not book a tee time. You do not. It's shared time. It's free to use to the public. I do understand there will be, and it looked like in the report there would be a budget of around $2,000 for maintenance of the areas. But to, I guess, but the area the park would be located would be on an already maintained park as well. So yes, I do agree there is costs to it, but disc golf is unique in a way that it is a free to use sport. The only cost that comes to people playing it is buying themselves discs.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nguyen.
I'm just wondering if you can comment a bit on the site matrix that was provided by administration, just ranking the top 5 sites, because I think that's changed substantially since you were here last, and I think a priority site for your preference was at that time Price Alderson Park. So we'll probably be revisiting this again should the motion pass today in budget, but just wanting some perspective on where you think would accommodate this activity the best.
Okay. Yeah, and looking at the main factors would be amenities like parking and bathrooms. So some places that have that are Price Alderson and West River's Edge Pavilion and area, as well Turner Park. The challenge with Price Alderson Park is there are other like there are soccer fields there, and just the overall usable space isn't enough to create a good-sized 9-hole disc golf course. The reason I think West River's Edge Park is the best is because there is a lot of space, so that there is less hazards for people in the area. I think Price Alderson would be one challenge to some of the other courses is it's a tight space close to pathways. I think one of the benefits of both sites in West River's Edge area are there's a lot more space, and I think and then having those amenities there as well just puts it at the top of the list.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Looks like all the questions, so thank you very much for coming out this afternoon to talk to us and show your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So the floor is still open for delegations. If there's anybody who is not registered that would like to come and speak to any of the items that don't have a public hearing attached to it, this would be the time to come forward. All right, I'll give a second call for anybody on any of the items. Go ahead, you want to be brave. Sure. Then you can go to school. Yeah, then you can go to school and tell everybody you came and talked to us, okay? So you can push the button when you sit down and you're going to tell us your name and speak into the mic.
My name is Spencer Anderson, and I seriously don't know.
Hunter? It's Hunter? Okay, we won't force him to. But good job, you made it up here, so good job for coming out. All right, last call for anybody wishing to speak to any of the items. All right, not seeing any. We will move on with our agenda. And the one that Curtis and Hunter. We will be discussing that later in the agenda as item 8.2. You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to watch it online. That's up to you. Okay, we will move on to bylaws. So bylaw 5.1, municipal bylaw C16-24, MDP update to reflect the agriculture, regional agriculture master plan, first reading. Welcome, Cherie and Craig.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Shri Shinde. I'm the Manager of Current and Long Range Planning, and I'm here with Dr. Craig Thomas, Director of Planning and Development. And we are here to present Bylaw C16-24 Municipal Development Plan Update to reflect the Regional Agriculture Master Plan, the RAMP. This MDP update is the requirement of the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, the EMRB, to bring the member municipalities' MDPs in alignment with the regional plan. The EMRB growth plan was approved by the province in October 2017. This plan acknowledges agricultural land as a regional asset and agriculture as a regional economic opportunity. The growth plan gave direction for the development and adoption of the Regional Agriculture Master Plan as an amendment to the Regional Growth Plan. Council adopted city's municipal development plan in January 2021. RAMP received provincial approval and came into effect in December 2022. The RAMP required member municipalities to prepare the regional context statement identifying alignment with the alignment or the diversion of their respective MDP policies with the RAMP and update the MDPs to address any gaps. Council approved the regional context statement in October 2023, and today we are bringing forward the required MDP update for the first reading and a public hearing. So let's take a look at the framework of the RAMP. The RAMP establishes 4 policy areas. Policy areas 1 and 2 are largely applied to the rural portion of the region, and they are shown in color green and pink on this map. Policy area 3 is in light yellow, and policy area 4 is in gray, and both these policy areas apply to the Fort Saskatchewan. Here is a zoomed in version of the same map. Policy area 3 is the agriculture in transition lands. Under this designation, RAMP recognizes that these lands currently accommodate agriculture but are planned for the future urban development. In the fort, lands under agriculture within undeveloped industrial area and newly annexed lands fall under this designation. Intent of this designation is to continue the agricultural use until the lands are required for the urban development as per the approved area structure plans. Policy area 4 is the urban agriculture, which is applied to all build-out areas within the municipality. Intent of this designation is to create awareness about agriculture and support agribusiness and value-added agriculture in the city. RAMP also identifies prime agricultural lands within the region. These lands are hatched on this map. Lands are considered prime agricultural land because of their soil quality, the local climate conditions, and socioeconomic factors of the region. So what changes are being made to the MDP? The city's MDP already addresses the prohibition of premature conversion and fragmentation of the agricultural lands until they are required for the contiguous development in accordance with the ASP. So the key policies that are being added are regarding maintaining the access and roads to accommodate agricultural machinery for existing agriculture to continue, topsoil management, ensuring compatible land use pattern between agricultural and non-agricultural uses, and requiring an urban agriculture plan to create public awareness. Notice of the public hearing was advertised in the Fort Record for 2 weeks, and public hearing was also advertised through the city's social media accounts and the web page. We haven't received any communication from the public on this. Following the public hearing, updated MDP will be submitted to the EMRB for the approval, and following the EMRB approval, the bylaw will be brought forward to council for second and third readings. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the presentation. Very well familiar with RAMP, and have been in some workshops at EMRB breakout sessions. One question, so a lot of the track changes to the NDP policies have to do with managing soil exchange from one municipality to the other. So can you give me paint a bigger picture of just how you can see that playing out? Like, are we going to be requiring permits or fees for bringing in, well, I'll call it foreign soil into Fort Saskatchewan? Or what does this look like, and what does it mean for the actual operation of topsoil exchange?
Through your worship to Councillor Nguyen, all the details are not figured out yet. This is a new requirement. Through the MDP, we are committing to having those conversations where these transfers would take place between the municipalities. However, through the soil management plan, we would try so that these soils that are as a result of the urban development, they get used within the same area or within our municipality first. And then if anything needs to go out to the other municipality, we just have to coordinate with that administration. So we don't think there would be any fees or anything that we need to charge for this service at this point in time. We haven't done this. I don't think any municipality has done it, so we don't know what's the effort that would go in, but we expect it to be minimal.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I could see it being minimal, but I guess my concern then would be if we would have to administer some kind of soil management program to ensure the availability of topsoil screeners, and then we'd be managing or governing essentially that resource and how it is utilized and also who utilizes it. So I guess that's a concern I have, but that's probably something to do in the future, as I've never seen something like this implemented either. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Macon.
Thank you. On the topic of the soil management, is that something that's completely new to the city, or do we do that in some capacity already?
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, as a requirement, it is new, but I think as a development process, we do take a look at, how much soil is created and where it can be located, finding the suitable spots within the municipality to move that soil. So this process does take place as a part of our development reviews and things like that. I think it's just the requirement of having a plan in place which could address some of these concerns. So we might not be doing it to that extent. And I haven't seen the older ones because it usually used to happen through engineering. But maybe we might be doing it in more depth and with more cautious mind applied to it from the planning perspective and from the responsible use and recycling of the soil perspective.
Okay, thank you. And then just probably a really minor question about the track changes. 6.2C references increasing outdoor spaces, but it references public and private outdoor spaces. And I wasn't really sure where it was going with the private outdoor spaces, what we would be focusing on with that. That was 6.2C. Sorry, it didn't have a page number.
Through your worship to Councillor Macon, I think the intent of this objective is that Of course, we always have public open spaces, but private open spaces can also be encouraged. Um, and those could also be on the, so for example, on a private condominium property or something like that. So there should be a combination of both private and public. So if somebody is giving us an open space that is in addition to our 10% municipal reserve requirement, or we feel that certain development could benefit from an amenity space or something like that, this gives us ability to ask for it or utilize that space above and beyond 10% municipal reserve contribution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm next in the speaking order. So just going back to the soil management part of it. So is it or isn't it one of the, when it was being talked about through the working committee, wasn't it more about the fact that there's different soil contaminations that happen in different places, and having permits and understanding where this contamination potentially could go? Isn't that the reason that this was really focused on, to prevent contaminated soils going to good ag lands?
To your worship, yes, that is correct. So the soil has contamination, and when the topsoil goes from one municipality to another farm in a different municipality, that farm could get contaminated. So my understanding is even today we do follow some cleaning of the topsoil kind of protocol. So that does happen, but I think that's where the communication piece comes, where maybe other municipalities have that peace of mind that what has taken place and what quality of topsoil is being transferred to their farms.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. I truly wasn't going to ask any questions, but I needed some follow-up, some more color. Starting with Mayor Katcher's last question on contaminated soil. I know in the downtown core of Fort Saskatchewan over the last 25 years, we've had 2 former service stations dug out to 30 feet deep and, I don't know, 100 feet wide and 100 feet across sort of thing. That soil gets hauled somewhere. I always assumed that there was a permitting process and an environmental process that was followed. So am I wrong? There is none? And why, if there is, why do we need to address it in this particular document?
Through your worship, Councillor Kelly, yeah, that process is a little bit different, and it's regulated more so by the province. So when we're dealing with brownfield sites, so sites that have been developed, and with gas stations, particularly the older gas stations, tend to have leaked and contaminated the soil. So then when they, at a point in time when they do get redeveloped, it has to be suitable for the intended use. So it has to be cleaned to a certain standard. There's various ways of doing that. A lot of times the owner of the site will just let it sit and maybe blow air into the soil, and over 20 years it cleans itself. But to do something quicker, they do take the soil out. They take it to a place where they till it, and it goes through a process of cleaning, and then once that's done, they put it back in. But it is a separate process than what we're discussing today.
What makes it separate?
So what makes it different is when land gets developed, and I think the intent is more quote unquote greenfield development. So when a new neighborhood gets developed or a phase of a development happens, the soil is stripped off. So that's agricultural land. So the topsoil is stripped off, it's screened, it's stockpiled, and then it's typically sold. So it's transported somewhere else in the region. So the issue is really if there are contaminants in that soil, there might be certain types of bugs that are more native to this part of the region as opposed to somewhere else, and that could have externalities down, in terms of where it's going. So it's really about a process of developing a way for municipalities to kind of coordinate how to deal with this.
Okay, that helps. Thank you. Second question, if I may. The agriculture plan itself is part of this document. we did our first one because we anticipated the requirement from the EMRB, I think. So in terms of what we've traditionally done in Fort Saskatchewan to what we will do when this plan is adopted, what changes in terms of our physical actions or activities in the fort?
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, so we are in the process of developing the urban agricultural plan. What changes is for the from the urban agriculture plan perspective, the awareness piece is more important. So often urban residents do not know why agriculture is important and how it can be incorporated in urban cities, or the food systems and the food security, those things which are becoming more and more important. So I think that by creating the urban agriculture plan and incorporating it in planning framework of the city, it just creates more awareness. It promotes the community gardens kinds of thing, or even value added agriculture practices within the city. So it does align with the economic strategy of the city, but just more exposure for the urban residents to the agriculture.
And I think we had a similar conversation the first go around. I appreciate your answer. It's probably not my place to say right now, but I remain skeptical of the effort it took to do this. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Harris next.
Question, when do we anticipate a public hearing on this matter? It wasn't listed in the recommendation. I thought we were moving to our recommendations to include an actual date specific time.
It's next item on the agenda.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, immediately after this presentation, there would be public hearing. And then we go to EMRB for the approval.
Yeah.
Once they approve it, which means we don't have to make any further changes, then we can do for second and third.
I misunderstood that. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So round two, Councillor Nguyen.
Question regarding the wording premature fragmentation of farmland. So I think I'm beginning to understand this is sort of a preliminary and kind of top down for implementation and incorporation of agriculture planning into the MDP. But can you give me an idea of what you're talking about preventing premature fragmentation and I guess us having more involvement or direction in phasing development? I think that's something that kind of is driven by the market and the developer already handles on their own. So are we envisioning kind of controlling or regulating that with a plan of our own under this?
Through your worship to Councillor Nguyen, as I mentioned in my presentation earlier, the growth plan recognizes that agricultural land in this region is one of the best agricultural land nationwide. And agriculture itself is an economic opportunity, as not just Canada or the region, globally, the food security will become an issue. So it just recognizes that and tries to protect or conserve the agricultural operations as long as it could. So, for example, we have the current agricultural uses within the annexed lands. We don't need all the annexed lands right now, right? So that's why the staging is there. And so if we give more certainty to agricultural operators that the lands are not going to be required for 20, 30 years, they can do the agriculture in the most proper and sustainable way, and those lands could still be productive lands. So the intent, and that's why prohibit the premature conversion of the agricultural lands to non-agricultural use, or prohibit the fragmentation so the agricultural yield is affected negatively. So the intent is to just encourage the use of agricultural land as an agricultural land because it's a limited non-renewable resource as long as possible.
Okay.
Yeah, Your Worship, if I could just add to it, I think really the intent here is that ideally, if an agricultural parcel of land is in its fullest and largest form, it's the most productive. So what could negatively affect that is if you fragment land, and what that means is if you start to create more parcels. So if you start subdividing that land into more parcels. So ideally, if it's in a quarter section, that's great. And if it can remain in a quarter section as long as possible, then when urban development happens, it's at a point where you could just grow contiguously off the existing urban development. The other aspect of that is what's called leapfrogging, where you have an area of urban development with agriculture in between. So that starts to negatively affect. So what this particular policy in the MDP is saying is that basically we're doing what we're doing right now, and we want to have policies and practices to prevent premature fragmentation.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question. Thanks for adding that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly on round two.
You bet. Thank you. First, I want to be clear. My prior comment wasn't addressed at you folks. It was addressed at the MRB. The rural municipalities that are members of the EMRB are also doing an agricultural plan as well.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, I am not 100% sure, but a lot of them already have the agriculture master plan for their municipalities. I don't know if this is mandatory because urban agriculture policy area applies to the metropolitan tier, and that's where the urban agriculture plan requirement comes for our municipality, but I'm not 100% sure about rural.
Well, and I guess
Your Worship, I think I can answer that. So yes, it's only the urban municipalities within the region. So there are some exceptions to that because Strathcona is both urban and rural. But in terms of the urban agricultural plan, for example, like a rural municipality would not be required to do it under the ramp.
So what's to stop Mr. Thomas, a rural municipality from leapfrogging development across the municipality if they aren't required to have the same controls that the urbans have?
Through your worship, sorry, could you ask that again? I'm not sure.
And I probably wasn't clear. I'll try it. You bet. In the example, I think to Councillor Nguyen you gave, you talked about contiguous development or developing in a reasonable way so that you're not parcelizing or leapfrogging ahead of where you need to be to fracture the land mass or land area up unnecessarily. So my question is, what stops the rural municipalities from doing that if they're not required to live by the same rules? Or are they? And that's really my question. Do they have to live by the same rules? And if so, guide me to where I can find them. I'd appreciate it.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, so there are rules for rural municipalities as well. Through the RAMP, Policy Area 1 and 2, as I said, it largely applies to the rural area where the soils are good and there are large expanses. The farms are larger too, and so those need to be protected. The growth plan also prohibits the leapfrogging in the rural areas. So the growth plan talks about contiguous development around the hamlets. So if you want to do urban kind of development within the rural areas, it should happen around the hamlets or where the existing developments are, so that you are not leapfrogging. But it also allows the uses, it also recognizes, I think, the uses that are required for the rural community. So sometimes uses such as the community hall or something like that, it could probably go within the rural agricultural area because the areas are so vast. the hamlets are so further apart, and to meet the requirement of those rural communities, certain things could go within rural areas, but they are discouraged through the growth plan and through the ramp as much as possible.
And I appreciate your answers, but if you have a minute and there is no rush, could you send council a link on where I could look at the regulations that apply to the rural municipalities? I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
Hi, thanks for the presentation and the very detailed document. Does some of this, because it's agriculture and we're trying to preserve it, do we see some kind of a green belt that like Ontario has in the future? Is that some of the intent of this, to maybe have some permanent, never to be built on agricultural lands?
Through your worship to Councillor Blizzard, so EMRB's growth plan took a different approach. They did consider the green belt, but in most places the green belts were not that effective. It's just the suburban development just crossed the green belt and happened on the other side of the green belt. And so we went in the direction of the policy areas and having regulations and different intents associated with those policy areas.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think just for clarity, do you want to just explain the 3 tiers that are in the growth plan? Edmonton Tier 1 and Tier 2, and how each one of those works when it comes to the ag land. If you explain that, that might help.
Okay. So the growth plan that was approved in 2017 has 3 tiers. One is the Edmonton Metropolitan Core, which is, I'm not exactly 100% sure about the boundary, but I want to say the area within the Anthony Henday and the downtown core of Edmonton. Some of the developing areas might fall outside of that. So next tier is the metropolitan tier, where all the municipalities on the outskirts of Edmonton, the urban municipalities, they fall within that. It does take into consideration the annexed areas and the plans that are in place for the future development. So that is the metropolitan tier. Fort Saskatchewan falls within that, and outside of that is basically mostly the rural area. And what RAMP did is it kind of follows the similar structure for policy area 1 and 2 and 3. So policy area 3 somewhat aligns with the metropolitan tier area, and then it looked into what are the prime agricultural lands within all the policy areas. I don't.
Okay, thank you. All right, that looks like all the questions. So I know there is a request for a motion for first reading.
The recommendation is that Council give first reading to bylaw C-1624, Municipal Development Plan Amendment to reflect the Regional Agriculture Master Plan, and further that a public hearing be held.
Thank you. What is the wish of council? Councillor Nguyen. Whoops.
It's not meant for me.
I know. Okay, go ahead.
So I'll move that council give first reading to bylaw C-1624 to amend the municipal development plan to reflect the regional agriculture master plan, and further that a public hearing be held.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'll speak to this just in brief, and thanks for bringing further information. It was a good report. I believe I have a good understanding of why we're doing this. The soil management part of this, I could see that as something nearly impossible to implement if we have 2 ASPs that are being stripped, and Therefore, we need 2 screeners for topsoil. That effectively creates a monopoly of where you can purchase topsoil in Fort Saskatchewan. Administration will have to get involved in pricing that, or fair market value for that and things of that nature. So I guess I can't see through how something like that would roll out with the industry that I'm in, and well familiar with where a lot of topsoil comes from for new neighborhood constructions in Fort Saskatchewan, and it's a vast area, it's a regional area, and it's a capitalist market. So people want to get it most efficiently as possible. Other than that, I am supportive of including this in our MDP. I realize that there's going to be a lot of further details vetted out on the implementation of this. It does sound to me as well that we're going to be having a future focus on urban agriculture, and that's something that I would like to see in Fort Saskatchewan. Meeting with the EMRB, I've heard and seen some great ideas such as rooftop patios and multi-level buildings being used as potential ag land for tenants, things of that nature, front yard boulevards, things like that being used where monocultures are usually present. So I think this will encourage, and in your words, as you mentioned, education and awareness is the biggest part. And lastly, just looking to the future of the annex lands in Fort Saskatchewan, so that I'm kind of envisioning this in a context of urban agriculture and not so much farmland, and that's kind of the 2 agriculture pieces that I think this addresses. So looking far into the future, I think this will have a greater focus on those urban uses of farming applications.
Okay, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. I'll support first reading. It goes with what the EMRB has requested of the municipalities. When it talks about the regional agriculture master plan, really, and that's why I asked you to talk about the tiers, because Edmonton has to do more kind of local agriculture within their boundaries, where we know that around Edmonton, the donut, it does give us the opportunity to grow together. However, it wants to keep us from fracturing the ag land. So rather than building a new subdivision out at Range Road 542, it forces us to have to actually build consecutively. With regards to the one question that was asked, I think there is some disparity between rural and urban, but I've made my comments at the EMRB table when it comes to special study areas, and I think that's the place, that's where we make our comments on that. So it's a requirement, so I will support it. Thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. I'm going to vote for first reading. I believe this to be an incredibly expensive process to educate people about having a boulevard garden or a balcony garden. That's available on any website or magazine you want to pick up in a newsstand. I'm curious, because it's bothered me for a number of years now, and if you can address this question, please do, and if you can't, feel free to say don't understand or don't know. South on Highway 21, east side of the highway, approximately halfway to Highway 16, they're mining the clay out of that quarter section. By the time they're done, that quarter section is going to be significantly lower than the surrounding land. There is obviously a pile of topsoil there that, as near as I can tell, isn't earmarked for use. And that is a quarter section of what I consider prime agricultural land that is going to be destroyed. And I don't also have an answer for it because construction requires clay. I question whether that was the best place to get it. But so how does this regional agricultural plan meld into something like that and assure me that we're going to enforce regulations or rules that insist that when we mine the soil, we're going to take it from the most appropriate place possible, economically speaking as well, obviously.
Through you, Your Worship, Councillor Kelly, I'll try to answer it as best I can. And I'm not sure if that specific location, if it's gravel or clay. I always thought it was gravel, just because there's the the Oxbow area, and it might, I just assumed it was kind of a gravel seam, but it very well could be clay. Yeah, I mean, extraction operations like that, they're unique because certain types of resource extraction in the province is actually responsible and the regulator for that. But when it comes to gravel and clay, it's generally the municipality that has the autonomy to allow it and to regulate how that happens. So that's kind of a Strathcona County type of a function. And I don't know what the soil quality would be like in that area as well, but I think through the AMRB, they're attempting to do certain things. They're not, obviously, there's going to be other things that kind of play into that, like these type of extraction operations. And I don't know if that's been considered in the growth plan itself. So that's about as good as I can answer it at this time.
And I think you gave a great answer to probably an impossible question, Mr. Thomas. I'll stop at that. I'll vote for the first reading. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any additional questions. Anything on close?
Yeah, just a comment, and I think it's been mentioned already, and to echo what you presented as well. I think that the rural agriculture master plan, in its nature for this region, draws some friction with growth and development. So, I would really like further conversations to happen, be seen at EMRB on how we preserve prime agricultural farmlands and this rich topsoil when contiguous growth is going to be eating into these geographical regions. So I'd like to see an implementation of this in a solid plan for it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. The motion is now closed for first reading. Please cast your vote. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And now we will go into the public hearing for bylaw C16-24. So as always, the process is that once I have opened the public hearing, then administration will present, and council will have an opportunity to ask questions. Following the questions, people will have an opportunity to speak in favor or opposed. And following that, then administration will answer any following questions of council, and then I would close the public hearing. So with that, I am going to open the public hearing for bylaw C16-24, and I have Sharice Shindy and Craig Thomas presenting. Wasn't sure why you ran away. So I'll open the public hearing at 2:52.
Your worship, members of council, I think we're just here to answer questions, and we'll let our report for first reading stand.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Harris?
So this whole process is significantly different than if we were doing a regular land use bylaw amendment or an MDP amendment. So I asked that question. Maybe I just didn't understand it. I was thinking that the public hearing, even though it was on the agenda, is this just because it's a regional plan? That wasn't well laid out in the report. Did I miss that?
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, yes, that's correct, because the statutory plans need EMRB's approval. We do the public hearings first. So if we hear some feedback from a public hearing, we can accommodate that. We can bring that back to council again. And so before the plan goes to the EMRB, we would have addressed the public feedback in the plan. So we do the public hearing before sending the plans for approval to the EMRB.
That sounds like a convoluted process, and please forgive me for being critical of it. I realize it's not your problem, but it seems like a really stupid process. I mean, honestly, we need to get public input into things. I understand that, but I don't see anybody in the audience that's coming forward to make a public presentation. Is anybody registered?
No.
Okay,
Well, not that I'm.
then it's my bad for not understanding this process, because I'm a creature of habit who's used to giving it first reading,
Yes.
setting the date, advertising it, and then having it.
Through your worship to Councillor Harris, yes, so we did do the advertisement part of it, which we usually do it after first reading, right? And then before second and third reading, you get the public hearing. So we did advertise the bylaw. The regular process is just instead of public hearing happening with second and third reading, it is happening before second and third reading.
I've got Mr. Fleming. Go ahead.
Just through your worship, to put it into context, there have been issues in other municipalities where they do first reading, send it through the EMRB, which is quite the process, takes a month and a half, goes back to the municipality, they have the public hearing, get a significant amount of feedback, change the statutory plan, and then they have to resubmit it and go back through the EMRB again. So if you get as much done as you can before you do the EMRB submission, you save yourself from potentially having to submit it and go through twice.
I guess I'm trying to understand that from the standpoint of process, because it would appear to me that we could follow the normal process. We could have a public hearing in 2 weeks from now. In other words, put it on an agenda, give it first reading, have that. If nobody shows up, ultimately our bylaw gets submitted, then it gets reviewed. Is it considered to be an expeditious process following this methodology? Because it seems stupid.
We'll refrain from using that word.
Well, you can say that to the MRB. I'm not sure I see the value in it. I think the normal process for input provides more than ample opportunity for the public to ultimately have input with appropriate advertisement. So it's my poor consideration of the process. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the public hearing is open, so I'll just have you guys maybe just move over there and I'll see if there is anybody here that wishes to speak in favor or opposed to bylaw C16-24. Keeping in mind it was advertised as the requirement. I'll give a call second time. Okay, not seeing anybody racing forward. We will go ahead. Are there any final questions of administration? Not seeing any. All right, so I will close the public hearing at 2:57 and you can just present. That's it. You're good. Because it has to go to EMRB. All right, thank you very much. All right, the next item that we have is, let's see, Regional Master Plan, Bike Skills Park Study. And we have Brad Babiak and Sheila Gagnon presenting.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Sheila Gagnon, and I'm the Recreation Development Coordinator. With me this afternoon is Brad Babiak, Culture and Recreation Director. We are here this afternoon to present the Bike Skills Park Study supplementary information. The purpose of this presentation is to provide Council with additional information on engagement, further site assessment, development of a site recommendation, recommended funding sources, timing, phased approaches, community partner commitment, and operational impacts on a bike skill park. A bike skills feasibility study was initiated during the 2023 budget deliberation, and the feasibility study was presented to Council on October 10th, 2023. The feasibility study identified 3 potential locations from 17 sites, following engagement with community partners and the use of a scoring matrix. Council approved the motion to send the feasibility study back to administration to gather further information. A bike skills park is a purposely built facility, a year-round amenity for all types of bikes, including BMX, mountain, dirt jump, and pedalless bikes. The skills park is designed for riders of all ages and skill levels and the ability to get outdoors and offers risky play that serves as an environment where individuals can enhance their bike skills, decision-making abilities, and confidence, similar to playgrounds or skateboard parks. City of Fort Saskatchewan offers a variety of park spaces and outdoor recreational opportunities year-round. Park spaces consist of pocket parks, sport focus parks, playground equipped parks, special event parks, and festival park spaces. The city boasts an impressive 118 kilometers of diverse trails that include 80 kilometers of paved trails and 38 kilometers of multi-use single dirt trails. Field sports feature 13 soccer fields, 22 minor ball diamonds, 1 football field, 1 rugby field, and 3 outdoor rinks that are multi-programmable in the summer with beach volleyball, a practice area for both minor soccer and football, and 1 has ball hockey, ball lacrosse, and basketball. Court sport enthusiasts can access 2 tennis facilities, 1 pickleball facility, and 6 basketball courts. A skateboard park that was recently expanded, picnic spots and toboggan hills throughout the city, and a family spray park. West River's Edge offers an extensive outdoor experience with 7 slow pitch diamonds, a 38 off-leash dog park, popular playground, and a fishing pond doubling as an outdoor skating rink. 14 kilometers of Nordic ski trails. Outdoor amenities provide our residents with opportunities to enhance their physical, mental, and social well-being and foster strong communities by connecting people to nature. These open space amenities are offered free of charge. However, if organizations want to reserve specific days or times for league play, typically a license agreement or a booking rental is completed. Additional engagement consisted of 2 parts, community partner and the public. Community partners are groups or organizations within the local community. Working collaboratively with our community partners allows us to leverage local expertise, resource, and project commitment. Community partners consisted of the Indigenous Society of Fort Saskatchewan, Fort Saskatchewan Trail Alliance, Andy Polanski Charitable Foundation, Nordic Ski Club, Mixed Slow Pitch Association, and the Youth Council. Through interviews, community partners provided general comments on the proposed sites, highlighting the strength and drawbacks of each. Interview discussions focused on site locations and surrounding amenities of each site, site features, and potential for partnerships. Public engagement provides the community with the options to share feedback and perspectives. Public consultation took different forms and engaged through conversation with approximately 461 people. The open survey was designed with 7 questions and was available for local and non-local residents on the landing webpage or hard copies available at facilities. 1,119 surveys were submitted for review. Administration also actively participated in the trade show, 2 evening information sessions, and Legacy Park Family Festival to inform the public, answer questions, and listen to the people's perspective. Some of what was heard at a high level was support for the project, with a few indifferent, concerns with park safety and increase of vandalism, and to design the Bike Skills Park accessible for all ages and skill level. The 3 sites that were under review, first one was West River's Edge North, Site 1. It offers excellent access, natural terrain, mature and young trees, possible area to grow the site. Some drawbacks were pressure on parking at the Dow Diamonds and no amenities right at that site. Site 2 is Turner Park. It offers very established tree area for design. Some of the drawbacks is it's unable to expand this footprint, and this area is currently heavily utilized with spring sports. Site 3 is West River's Edge South. This site could expand its footprint. It is currently the largest footprint that was offered, and the multi-use trails are located right by that one. The drawbacks is the site is flat and furthest from amenities. Following community partner engagement, survey, data analysis, and information gathered from the initial report, Site 1, West River's Edge, is recommended for further site assessment, including drainage, grading review, environmental impact, and supporting amenities. A proposed site of 2.7 acres has a buffer of established trees, separating it from the nearby ball diamonds, creating 2 distinct park areas. Signage would direct people to preferred available parking at the West River's Edge Pavilion area. Site 1 recreational activities surrounding it include the Dow ball fields that offer concession services when tournaments are active, and a city parking lot. Andy's Playground, located beside the Dow ball fields, offering porta potties and receptacle bins. A new subdivision east of Site 1, separated with paved multi-use trails, established tree line, and a road. West River's Edge Pavilion offers city parking, washroom facilities, and picnic tables. The Off-Leash Dog Park offers city parking and a porta potty. Paved multi-use trails are available throughout the West River's Edge area and lead past Site 1, allowing for accessible access. And the interpretive forest lies north of Site 1, separated by a wooden fence along the multi-use trail system. We also have single-use multi-dirt trails west of the site that run in the forest area along the river. Also, please note, in the winter time, Nordic ski trails are throughout the entire West River's Edge area. Site 1 slopes to the west and northwest with approximate elevation change of 5 meters from the east to the west. There is no existing storm infrastructure. in the area of Site 1. So it is anticipated that drainage would occur on the surface to natural drainage courses in the area. The soil condition consists of salty sands and clay, well suited for constructing a bike skills park. The goal is to maintain the natural terrain by integrating juvenile trees into the park design rather than removing them. Projects designed at a Class 2 level utilizing a phased approach have an advantage for securing grant funding and sponsorship opportunities and in-kind work. Phasing also allows the ability to adjust the design based on user feedback and changing needs as the park evolves. Based on survey results, community partner engagement, and municipal comparators, administration recommends a potential phased approach to serve the community by gradually developing a high-level skill park and supporting amenities, such as Phase 1 could have asphalt pump track, dirt flow trails, and beginner wooden features with a seated rest area. Phase 2 within the site footprint could have added advanced dirt jumps and advanced wooden features and a bike skill or a bike repair station. A bike skills park is anticipated to bring additional people to the West River's Edge area, which could lead to increased traffic on the paved trails, increased washroom use, and garbage in the area. Park services would inspect weekly, the same standards as playgrounds and skateboard park, for spring and summer, and then move into a monthly inspection for the remainder of the months. Further detailed amenity services would come from damage, vandalism, vegetation control, and landscape repair. The Bike Skills Feasibility Study indicated at a Class 5 level the annual operating impact to be $62,500. To mitigate hazards associated with risky play, the Bike Skills Park will adhere to established safety standards. This includes implementing proper signage and park etiquette, guidelines and clear markings, and design with appropriate features to minimize risks. The Bike Skill Park would be covered by the same insurance policy as a current skateboard park. A Class 2 conceptual design will help guide a phased approach, cost analysis, and grant or sponsorship opportunities in partnership with community partners. Funding for a Class 2 conceptual design for $62,500, supported through annual capital funding. The Bike Skills Park is a council-directed project aimed at enhancing recreational opportunities within the community. With no current formal bike organization, local and non-local individuals ride the multi-use paved trails and multi-use single dirt trails along the river valley for their biking experience. Several community partners have expressed interest to be involved in the Class 2 conceptual design concept. To form a partnership with the city, they have expressed interest in knowing first the Class 2 conceptual design and costing, and a clear understanding of project timeline. With that information, partners will consider their involvement in collaborating with the city for grant and sponsorship opportunities and in-kind work. For a city-built and funded project, it is estimated 6 months to secure a consultant for design and an additional 6 months for site build. If community partnership is required for grants, sponsorship opportunities, and in-kind work, the project timeline would increase. As a city asset, ongoing maintenance of the Bike Skills Park would be under Park Services. Administration recommends that council refer Class 2 design of a Bike Skills Park at West River's Edge North for inclusion in the 2025 capital budget deliberations. That concludes the presentation, and we're happy to take questions.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. I will open it up for questions. Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you for your presentation. My first question is, so 587,500, that's class 5, that's the class 5 estimates we currently have. Is there flexibility to scale down the project if for any reason class 2 estimate comes forward as much higher than what we have for class 5, and or if funding becomes an issue? Is there an ability to scale the projects down or up depending on where we land in terms of the final costing for class 2?
Through your worship to council, a class 2 design would then lay out what the cost could be, and from there, yes, you could shave back a project if needed, or keep the project as is with a future of, let's look at sponsorship or grant opportunities.
Okay. My second question, and I can come back around, is so the 62,500 for operations. What specifically are those costs? Is that staff time? What exactly is that?
Through your worship to council, my understanding at a class 5 level is for staffing and repairs, and depending on erosion of a bike skill park, that can take a little bit more work for staff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly, questions?
Thank you. Would the 62.5 include the insurance premium annually? That was going to be my question. You can get back to us. Tell you what, we can deal with this at budget time. This is just a referral. So when we talk about annual operating costs, I think we should have a general understanding, at least I'd like to have a general understanding, that when you say it's annual operating costs, that's an all-inclusive number of every known potential cost there could be for any project?
Through your worship, through council, that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you. This is probably better directed toward Mr. Fleming or maybe even Mr. Eamon behind him, but I don't recall if on our 10-year capital plan there's any allocation for getting washroom facilities down in the vicinity of the Dow Diamonds. And if not, maybe I could ask you why not.
Through your worship, we haven't had active conversations about that in a while. We actually did price it out. I want to say 5 or 7 years ago, something like that. It was quite expensive, and because you got to run the services down there, and then you talk about lift stations and whatnot to get the wastewater back out. So I think the cost of it was just cost prohibitive the last time we looked at it. Now, that being said, it's possible someone's looked at it in the meantime. Now that the residential development's actually gotten to the site, probably has changed that cost quite a bit. My understanding is that there are washrooms. I think there's porta potties with the ball diamonds that are down there, but it's obviously not a full washroom facility. So I would invite anyone else who's got more updated information than me on that to weigh in. But
and Rudy, that's enough detail. Thank you. I confirm my limited recollection as well. I think it's something we can also talk at during capital budget time and flesh it out a bit more. I was going to ask you a question around the skills qualities, but your pictures explain that, I think, sufficiently for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard, you're next.
Yeah, thanks for the information, and I really like the idea of the bike skills park, but I know this budget year is going to be a tough one, so we'll see what happens. I do have a few questions, though. So with Site 1, our choice, I walk by there pretty regularly. What's going to stop the bikers from going in that Fort Sask, we call it interpretive forest, the prairie area? Because there definitely are some sensitive plants that shouldn't have bikers jumping through it.
Through your mayor to council, you are correct. The interpretive forest is not designed for biking in there. There currently is already a wooden fence all along the area. We would also add signage, and then the layout of the bike skills park, where you have the natural entrance of it, it can be designed to make sure there's not a flow from that area right into the bike skills so that people wouldn't want to go through that wooded area. So design concept can really help with that as well.
Yeah, I've seen the fencing, but I still think people could get bikes through if they wanted. So yeah, maybe designing it so that it's not so obvious. And is there a bylaw prohibiting bikes in there? Because you said put signage up, or are we just asking nicely?
I believe we're asking nicely. I'm not sure of a bylaw to keep people out of that wooded area.
Not keep out, I guess bikes keep out any wheeled.
We don't have any sanctioned trails in that area.
Okay. Maybe we need some. So I also noticed on here, and right above this, the section of phase 1, it says in here, the survey results had 4 different things in rank: dirt flow, dirt jumps, which are 1 and 2, and then asphalt pump track is actually number 4. And yet in phase 1, that's the first thing mentioned that you're going to do. Would it not be maybe also more cost beneficial to just do some dirt tracks and dirt jumps to start with? That might lower the cost to get it started.
Through your worship to council, yes, in the survey, the results came out that way. After we talked to other municipalities that developed their bike skills in phases, and talking to some of our bike enthusiasts, the vision was you start with the littles and you build it up. A pump skill track doesn't necessarily have to be asphalt. There's positives towards that, and it could also be a dump or a dirt pump skill track as well. And there's positives to that, also drawbacks. So those type of that would be fleshed out in the Class 2 design of what's most appropriate.
Okay, and I have one more. Do you want to go around?
I'll come back to you. Okay, thank you. I'm next on the speaking order. So just clarify again the cost, because it says $62,500 for the Class 2. It says $587,500 for capital, and then it says $62,500 for operating.
Yep. So to your worship, the $62,500 is the 10% of the Class 5 capital costs for operational implications. For a Class 2 design, it's 10%, which is also $62,500. And then what we did was minus that from the total cost to get the 500 or whatever.
Okay, but I guess the question is, it says, maybe I'm just reading it wrong, operating budgets. So I know in our next presentation it talks about future operating. Is the future operating for this $62,500 every year?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. And you talked about the safety risks, operational impacts. Oh, the other one. So if council were to say yes to having the discussion at budget time, would it be appropriate to go out and talk to any of our industrial partners or any of them to talk about sponsorship, naming rights in advance of that? Mr. Fleming? Or go ahead, Ms. Gagnon. I saw his hand go for it, so.
Oh, through your worship, I always think that's a good idea.
Through your worship, that is going to be part of our recommendation, a project like this at this cost with this kind of a community benefit that's generally offered free to the citizenry and for youth can be attractive for companies that are looking for some sort of a community involvement, community investment. One strategy to consider, though, it's been my experience that if you get the project to more of a shovel-ready state, it becomes a little bit more sellable to potential sponsors. So whether or not I would say we could consider doing that even if council does sort of adopt this and agree to have it even on the horizon list, we could start talking to companies about it. But it might not be a bad idea to spend the money to get it to more of a shovel-ready state. And then that way the company doesn't have to wait that extra period of time to see their investment start to benefit.
Okay. So I guess just the tag on to that one, though, if we're talking to them, the question would be, like we're saying, it's basically 600,000. Because I heard once upon a time 1.5 million. Somewhere along the way. No? I'm dreaming? Okay.
To your worship, when we presented previously, there were three options, and I think the third site, which indicated next to the dog park, was the largest, and that had the largest cost associated, because that also had to consider things like amenities, like washrooms and stuff, because nothing was available. So that was site 3. So this approximately 600,000 is what's associated with the site 1.
Okay, thank you. Okay, round 2, Councillor Abatoye.
Thank you. Do we know what the anticipated user base will be for this bike skills park?
Through your worship to council, because we don't have a bike skills park in the area, it's, to give an actual number would be impossible. Through my conversations during the public consultation, I was pleased with how happy people were that the city was in discussions with a project like this. It gives that opportunity not only for the youth, but also for adults and active agers to get out and enjoy their bike in a controlled area and make the decisions that they can and cannot do on the skills.
Thank you. My second question is, do we have water station in that area? And I'm just thinking of these significantly hot summers we have. I think that's something we need to consider.
Through your worship to council, in that specific area, no, there isn't a water station there. And that was comments that I did hear. As Mr. Fleming said, with the new subdivision coming in, there is a water line tapped more so down at the Dow Diamonds. The area with the Dow Diamonds having tournaments, they do have a concession. That is, I think, 300 meters away. Also at West River's Edge Pavilion, there is a water station there. So if people needed to fill up their water bottle, a little short bike ride, there is a location that they could do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard on round 2.
Yeah, just one more. You had a really nice picture of a bike there jumping, and my first thought was, wow, that's high. But I'm not a huge risk taker. What liability does the city have? Would insurance cover if someone decided to do a jump they weren't capable of and they landed very wrong and had some major accident?
Through your worship to council, the Bike Skills Park is very similar to a skateboard park, where folks that go out and use them are testing, training their skills and decision making. I'm told that our insurance would cover the Bike Skills Park the same as it does the skateboard park. Okay. And a playground.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have one last question as well. So with the engagement, were there any groups that were interested in putting any money up front to help or fundraise?
To your worship, when we talked to our community partners, I felt they were very keen and interested in such a project, but what they did ask was they needed more certainty. What is the exact cost? What is the what is the ask of them and the timing based on their volunteer capacities. So I would definitely say once we have a class 2 conceptual design and costing, to reach out to those community partners again to ask them what is their appetite to form a partnership to help make the Bike Skill Park a reality.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that looks like about it for questions. You want to put the motion back up and I'll see what the wish of council is. Councillor Macon,
I can make the motion.
go ahead.
I'll make the motion that council direct administration to include a class 2 design estimate of the Bike Skills Park to be located at West Rivers Edge North as outlined in the Bike Skills Park study in the 2025 capital budget deliberations.
Thank you. I'll accept the motion. Do you wish to speak to your motion?
I do. Thank you for the report. It was really had all the information I was looking for, and I was really excited to see it come back. I do think that getting sponsorship for this project is the right funding source, and it's what I'm hopeful for. But I look forward to the discussion on including this in the budget so that we can get a class 2 and hopefully continue those conversations and see this project come around. Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is open for discussion and debate. Councillor Kelly?
One quick question for Ms. Gagnon. At the beginning of your comments or remarks earlier, you ran through a rather extensive list of outdoor services that we provide. I missed the reason for that. Is it to convince me that our outdoor things should all be free, or was it just to give us a better listing or idea that maybe we've got a broad scope and we're missing this one facility? I didn't.
Through your worship to council, I wanted to showcase the vast amenities that we have, and I think including more outdoor amenities just enhances the community. So I think we are very proud of what we can offer our local residents with our outdoor year-round activities.
And I would agree 100% with that comment. Thank you.
Would you mind if Mr. Babiak?
Oh, I didn't notice. Absolutely, yes.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, yeah. And part of the other rationale for that was to actually show the limited space we have going forward at this current time to find these opportunities for this scale of amenity. This is quite different from a park or just a set of courts. So that was the other piece, is just to illustrate kind of where we are as a city in terms of the available outdoor space before we start to see some of that future annex land come online.
Thank you. I also support the comments you had around maybe phasing the project, starting with the littles. That I get in spades. We go twice a year to Medicine Hat to golf because one of the outdoor amenities we don't have here is an 18-hole golf course. Get that shot in. Anyway, at the entrance to the campground, there is a Bike Skills Park designed for littles. And there is a constant stream on the weekend of 50 or 60 little people out there, heads bobbing as they're wheeling around it. And it's very cool. I get that. I think maybe for more advanced riders that we look at them putting that investment into our trail system as opposed to a stationary one and done sort of skills park. But we can have that discussion down the road. We start with the littles and see how it goes. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll support the motion as well. I think, I know it's a little bit of money, but I honestly believe that with the partners that we have out there, that there will be interest in finding sponsorship. There's lots of them looking for naming rights, and there's a couple new ones in our community that don't have their name on anything at this point in time. The operating budget's a little bit high, but, I think if we're moving forward and having the growth that we're having in our community, being able to offer free opportunities for people to get out and do outdoor sports, I think just really speaks to our community and our values. So I will support going out and getting a class 2. Okay, Councillor Macon on close. Okay, the motion is closed for a class 2. Please, or for in the 2025 deliberations, please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Now, I know our guests have been sitting here very patiently, but we are going to have a 10-minute comfort break. So it's 3:34, so 3:45, if everybody can be back in your seats, and we will move on with the next agenda. So we are in recess. Okay, so we're all in our seats, so I will call us back to order, and we'll begin with the next one, disc golf feasibility study. Sheila, presenting.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Sheila Gagnon, and I'm the Recreation Development Coordinator. With me this afternoon is Brad Babiak, Culture and Recreation Director. We are here today to present the disc golf feasibility study. The purpose of this presentation is to provide Council with a feasibility study that determines location and cost associated with construction of a permanent disc golf course that includes community partner engagement. Disc golf is a sport like traditional golf, but played with a frisbee-like discs instead of clubs and balls. In this video, as shown in this video from Spin TV, showcasing a pro course, players throw discs from a tee area towards a metal basket mounted on a pole. The objective is to complete each hole in the fewest throws possible, similar to golf, with the player completing a course of multiple holes. On June 11th, 2024, Council resolution unanimously approved for administration to assess the feasibility of a disc golf course. Engagement started with internal departments analyzing 34 available park spaces and sizes to accommodate a disc golf course. These parks were pocket parks, sports focus parks, playground equipped parks, and program park spaces. Internally, we narrowed the selection to 8 park spaces that their sizes could accommodate a disc golf course. From these 8, we narrowed down to 4 for deeper analysis. The park spaces that were removed were due to potential conflict with current park programming, number of homes backing onto the park spaces, limited parking, and limited terrain features. Community partners are groups or organizations within the local community that promote and facilitate sports and recreational activities, often help in organizing events, providing resources, offering services, and engaging residents in programs to enhance community well-being. Working collaboratively with our community partners allows us to leverage local expertise, resources, and community engagement by enhancing effectiveness and success of studies and projects. Community partners who were engaged in this project were the Fort Saskatchewan Disc Golf, Nordic Ski Club, and the Youth Council. A scoring matrix tool was used to help evaluate the sites based on the following criteria: the size, access to parking, impacts on natural area, site opportunities, public risk, supporting amenities, and land use compatibility. Internal staff and community partners reviewed the 4 sites with the following noted advantage and drawbacks of each site. Heritage Trails Park. The site size is very good. It has a variety of terrain, a course with a view, attracting visitors for sure, room to work with the Nordic ski trails. Some drawbacks are park programming. This park that is currently being developed will have park programming, would this be able to combine with that? And the current amenities are at a distance. Turner Park, the site is 6.5 acres. The amenities are right there in the mature trees. Some of the drawbacks is that because of the trees, the course would be designed for an intermediate to an advanced course with short holes. Additional grass maintenance would be required up into the trees, and it could not expand to 18 holes. West River's Edge Northeast is 31 acres, so the size is good. The amenities are available at West River's Edge Pavilion. There's a variety of terrain, room for future expansion, and room to work with the Nordic trails that are there in the winter. Some drawbacks is, well, you have to work with the Nordic trails that are there, and it could end up being a seasonal course. West River's Edge Pavilion area, 43 acres, so the size is very good. Amenities, of course, are available, and there's room for future expansion. The drawbacks is the Nordic Ski Club does program in that area heavily with their lessons during the winter time. Using the Matrix tool, interviews, and internal discussions, the following site is being recommended for a 9-hole disc golf course, the West River's Edge Northeast site. This site offers room for a 9-hole disc golf course and a room for future expansion for an 18-hole course. This site offers parking and washroom facility, multiple receptacle bins, and benches along the paved trails. Desirable terrain with a water feature, rolling hills, mature and juvenile trees with no surrounding homes. This area is programmed in the winter with Nordic trails. However, design would look at minimizing any trail impacts. Several key features are required to have a successful disc golf course. Signage, such as a course map, tee pad maps, and safety signs are all important. Another feature is tee pads, 3 different types of tee pads for consideration. Natural, which flows well into the environment, but the drawback is its high maintenance with the erosion that occurs. Artificial turf, it's a good surface, it's easy to move if necessary. The cost is high and does not last as long as cement. Cement is another option. The surface is good and good stability. It's low maintenance. The cost is high like the artificial turf, and if you had to move it, it'd be very, very difficult. Permanent disc golf baskets of high quality are recommended for high volume use and a variety of weather conditions. In-ground baskets can allow a lock system to remove for a seasonal course. This open space amenity would be free for the public use. However, if an organization wished to secure specific days and times, a license agreement would be set in place while being mindful of the amount of community access. The recommended site is in a current park space that has a service level for mowing. Basket maintenance requires annual review by park staff, and, if required, staff to remove and set up each season. The operational impact is estimated at $2,120 annually. Estimates gathered through 3 vendors have a design build cost at $50,000 and could be through the annual capital funding for conceptual design and build. Administration recommends that Council refer a 9-hole disc golf course at the northeast of West River's Edge Pavilion for inclusion in the 2025 capital budget deliberation. That concludes the presentation. We're happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Harris.
What's the closest disc golf to us?
Through your worship to council, the town of Bruderheim has a disc golf course, and so does Sherwood Park has 3. I think it was like 28 kilometers away.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Blizzard.
How was the safety? I actually went online and did a bit of looking on there, and I mean the videos I saw kind of looked like the professional course, which is more like a long range. I mean, those look huge, but you know, someone getting hit, these aren't just frisbees, and a frisbee can hurt, but these are heavier duty. So have you looked into the safety of those? And not for insurance, but for me, that's the walker or the biker or, you know, the cross country skier if it's in winter.
Through your worship to council, course design really helps mitigate those safety concerns, not having a basket right beside a walking trail. A lot of, well, disc course, unless they're a privately owned disc golf course, they're in public spaces. Signage is appropriate, and the layout of the course. Yeah.
Okay. West and location-wise, I kind of like the idea of the Heritage Park site better, mainly because it's kind of a newer area. West River's Edge, again, I'm down there a lot because that's the area that I go to. I have seen those parking lots like full, and we don't have a bike skills park there yet that we're looking at. If this golf course, disc golf comes, I can see issues with parking coming down there. Would we be looking at more parking lots?
Through your worship to council, at this time, no, there's no discussion about adding parking down there. But what we'd also do is you add in bike racks and encourage people, if they're playing disc golf, put on your backpack, ride to said location. With locals in a bike skills park, the anticipation, if they live on this side of town and it's safe to do so, they would ride their bike to the bike skills parks because their trail systems link up all around the whole city and land at that site.
Yeah, it's quite a ways away though. If you live in South Fort and want your little kid to go there, you put the bike in the car and drive. Anyway, just a consideration. I do have some more, but
okay, I'll put you down for round 2. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I had no idea or never conceived that this might in fact be a winter activity. Is that anticipated? And if it is, are we going to be expected to keep those tee pads clean of snow and ice all year long? Or at least in the winter months, I should say.
Through your worship to council, I'm told by disc golf enthusiasts that yes, they do play during the winter. Keeping those tee pads clean, that's a good question because that would add to parks operations. Our main thing is when we're working with our community partners is collaborating with all that would be impacted, and that's why we brought Nordic Ski to the table. And the unique thing with the disc golf is the setup can be a removable lock and keyed basket. So if it was designed for seasonal in Alberta is longer disc golf season than there is Nordic skiing. So we would be mindful, ensuring we're not damaging the Nordic trails and ensuring that we have as much usage of the disc golf as we can.
I'm sure you will. I just wanted to get that on the table because if in fact we have to send a crew down there to clean those pads every time it snows, that could get quite expensive for probably very limited use. So I look forward to more comments when the time comes. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blizzard on round 2.
Sure, and then I'll make the motion if it's okay.
Sure.
So do costs include, I'm going to say first, it's actually a relatively low cost to build this compared to some of the other things we've looked at. Does that include the cost of cement pads or what? How did you price that out?
Through your worship to council, when I reached out to the vendors asking for a class 5 estimate, that was to include, I wanted the higher price pad. So I said, tell me what cement pad is. So that $50,000 that I received, and I did have a range, but it includes design and build, and that's including the cement pads.
Cement pads and the baskets.
Correct.
For 9.
Correct.
Okay. And then maybe if expansion comes, a club might want to raise money for that part. If you want, I can make the motion.
Okay, I've got Councillor
sorry.
Abatoye, and then I'll come back to you for a motion, okay? Go ahead, Councillor
thank you.
Abatoye.
Thank you. It was just one quick question back to the operational cost. So you have 2,120 for maintenance. It seems really modest. So just wondering, are there potentially any maybe hidden costs or long-term costs that may be added on to that as a result of the operational costs for this? It's 2,120, right, that you have?
Through your worship to council, I did have Park Services break down what their estimate would be. The biggest savings on this is the site that's being recommended is currently mowed. So that's the biggest staff time is mowing such a large acre. So that's a good thing. It's already mowed. It would include waste removal, but there's already receptacle baskets all up there. So that's a good thing because they already do that. Line trimming around. So it's staff cost of just going to the 9 holes and doing I think kind of minor trimming and stuff. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And just to the comments, just ensuring that we're including all of that cost, right? So just if we're going to be taking out those the baskets and putting back in, that's extra time, right?
No, that would be included. That was included in their fee of setting up and taking down.
Okay.
If that occurs.
Right. So so if it's a winter spot, then wouldn't they be there all the time? Would the baskets be there all the time, or are they going to be?
Depending on the design and the impact on the Nordic ski trails, the intent would be for an all seasonal disc golf course, but we'd have to flesh out, is there conflict with the Nordic ski trails, or as Councillor Kelly noted, do we have to then do extra cleaning of the pads? What impact does that have? So depending on those circumstances, it could be a seasonal course or it could be a year-round course.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to Councillor Blizzard for the motion. You have to push your button. Go ahead.
I'll make a motion that council direct administration to include a 9-hole disc golf course to be located northeast of West River's Edge Pavilion as outlined in the disc golf feasibility study in the 2025 capital budget deliberations.
Thank
you. In speaking to that, there's still not a given because we will still be discussing them. But it certainly, this looks like it's not a very expensive ad for another amenity for our city. So it's something we can consider.
Great. Thank you. We'll go to discussion and debate. Councillor Harris.
I checked with one of the councillors in St. Albert. He indicated that they have 2 disc golf courses there, an 18-hole course, which is just a seasonal course, and they have a 9-hole. Both have natural tee boxes, or whatever you want to call it, tee pads or whatever. And he says they're very popular. I didn't ask him about any of the details about cost to maintain and all that sort of stuff. Generally I'm not opposed to this. I think we're going to have to wait to see what the cost is. I would think that we should be able to work with the Nordic Ski Club. They put their trails in wherever they want to put them, but I think we have an opportunity to put them where we choose to obviously have adjoining amenities. So I would see that would be something that we should be able to have a reasonable conversation to be able to accommodate both groups if that were to come through whatever process, if we get to that point. So it looks like it might be a reasonable many, so I guess I'd be prepared to move it to the next stage.
Okay, thank you. I too am supportive of moving it to the next stage of having the discussion in capital budget. We've spent money on pickleball courts, basketball courts. We spent money on the beach sand volleyball courts and skateboard parks. So, it is a lower cost amenity, and I think it's probably the next new thing, and it's inexpensive. I won't say cheap. I don't know how much the disc costs, but it's inexpensive. When I see kids actually riding their bikes down to fish in the Lions Pond. I imagine that when you've got 2 or 3 of them, I can imagine them having a disc in their backpacks and also going along and doing some of that because they're looking for activities. So absolutely support moving it to the next stage. So thank you. Not seeing anything else. Councillor Blizzard on close. Nothing. Motion is closed. Please cast your vote. And the motion is carried unanimously. So the next step for those who are sitting here, including Hunter, is it? Pardon? Spencer. I'm sorry, my hearing's going, Spencer. So the next step is going to be, Council's going to be discussing this at our capital budget coming up in October and November, and then we'll approve a capital budget in December. If it goes forward in that, then if the money's put in there, then one would get constructed next year. So thank you for coming out, and we won't hold you back. Please feel free to leave if you like. Thank you. I didn't catch his name. I thought it was Hunter. That's close. All right, so we will move right along with energy management strategy. Sadie Miller presenting.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and Council. My name is Sadie Miller, Director of the Utilities and Sustainability Department, and I'm here to request a decision from Council regarding the development of an energy management plan. Supporting me today is Grant Schaefer, Director of Fleet Facilities and Engineering. The Municipal Climate Change Action Center, or MCCAC, provides funding, technical assistance, and education to municipalities to help lower energy costs, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve climate resilience. The MCCAC's Municipal Energy Manager program initially launched in 2019, and a new round of funding became available this year. On June 12th, the City of Fort Saskatchewan was notified that our grant application to participate in years 1 and 2 of the 2024 Municipal Energy Manager program was successful. The purpose of the Energy Manager program is to help municipalities fund resources so that they can develop and help implement an energy management plan. In year 1, mandatory deliverables include tasks such as creating an energy management assessment and plan, completing a detailed energy audit on one municipal building, developing a comprehensive list of recommendations to improve energy efficiency, and pursuing grants to help fund the recommendations. In year 2, the primary focus is on further implementation and tracking of recommendations. Many communities that participated in this program in 2019 reported decreases in both utility costs and greenhouse gas emissions, with the average energy savings being $77,000 per year. The MCCAC funds a maximum of $100,000 in year 1 and a maximum of $80,000 in year 2. Funding supports both staffing and implementation efforts related to the energy management plan. Of the $269,585 being recommended for this initiative, $180,000 is grant funded. Administration is recommending that Council approve a maximum of $269,585 over 2 years to support the development and implementation of an energy management plan for the city. The city's contribution toward the project would be $89,585, which would be included as a one-time funding item in the 2025 budget. That concludes my presentation. Mr. Schaefer and I are available to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. I'll open it up for questions. Councillor Macon.
Thanks for the presentation. So I said one question. Under participating municipalities must accomplish. There's a comment on completing, the energy audit on one building. Do we have an idea of what building that would be, I guess, and why? And also, is it anticipated that the learnings from that can be utilized in all of the buildings, considering we're only doing one?
Your worship, Councillor Macon, I think while we haven't narrowed down to a specific building, I think it would make sense to look at our biggest energy users, whether that's the Dow Center or City Hall, probably the two biggest ones we'd look at. And then obviously those learnings can be applied to other smaller ones as we move out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you. I think I heard you say that you would apply the $89,585 to the 2025 budget. But it's a 2-year program, I think. So why wouldn't we just split that in half and go, it helps keep the program, I guess, in front of council too, if it's a line item on the budget, and allocate it to 50-50 between the 2 years.
Through your worship to Councillor Kelly, I might defer that question to Mr. Eben or Miss Janelle Smith-Duguid.
So, your worship, yeah, it's a fair question, and we can have that conversation with finance about how to best incorporate it in the budget. But if this motion is passed by council, we'll make sure there's a reference to this.
Would it be acceptable to you then that we change the wording of the motion and say $89,585, one half for 25 and one half for 26?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Batoye?
Thank you for your presentation. So is the expectation that our projected savings will be 77,000, since that's what other municipalities have seen? Because our initial investment is 89,000. So what is the anticipated savings for the city or to the city?
Your worship, Councillor Batoye, I'd hate to put a number on it because we haven't done the work to see what's available, but based on what others have been able to achieve, we can probably think somewhere in that same range, and those are annual savings, not just one time. So even if it was less than that, they would compound to more than our investment, I guess, up front.
Okay, thank you. So the requirement is to have that 5% reduction of GHG, right? Reduction. So if since the 2-year plan, if we don't meet that 5% in the first year, do they claw back the funding for the next year, or do we still get it irrespective?
Through your worship to Councillor Abatoye, year 2 funding is dependent on meeting year 1 requirements. With that being said, the MCCAC has a lot of really great technical staff that provide free support to this energy manager position. There has not been a situation where a community has not reached that 5% reduction goal.
So it's an easy goal, basically, right? Okay, hopefully.
Okay, thank you. So the only question that I have is, so the funding is year 1 for staffing and year 2 for staffing. So would you just second somebody out of an existing position, or would you hire somebody? How would you deal with that? And I only ask that because I know when planning came forward, they said specialized people, it's really hard to get them unless they're full-time.
Your Worship, we are not currently aware of any staff who would be able to meet the technical requirements of this position, but we could be surprised. With that being said, we did engage with MCCAC about the recruitment, and they highly recommended the 2-year program because it draws in more qualified candidates. Most communities in the region participated in this program in 2019, and they all got pretty impressive results, and recruitment was not a challenge. So based off that information, we don't anticipate that we'll have issues.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kelly, you wanted to make the motion slightly adjusted? Oh, sorry, yes. Go ahead.
Before I start, Mayor Catcher, is it your preference that I make the original motion as adjusted the way I would like it, or to make the motion as written and then go for an amendment after?
No, he can make the motion
as adjusted.
As adjusted.
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Kelly, we can just share the motion I have pending on the screen here. If approved by your worship and the rest of council, I feel we could achieve your intent with a friendly amendment. So just make the motion as revised. I'm not sure if this reflects your desired intent. You just wanted certain numbers carved out for the 2 years?
I think, Andrew, what I was really driving at is the funding, grant funding itself is designated on a 2-year program, X amount per year.
Okay.
So I wasn't concerned about that. I was mostly concerned about the 89,585 to be split over 2 budget cycles.
Okay.
And if, no, just take out the one-time funding and just split between 25 and 26 budgets. Tell you what, while he's doing that, I can speak to this if you.
Yep, go ahead.
We don't have to waste everybody's time here. I actually think this makes a lot of sense. I was astounded over the last 15 months or so and particularly last year at electricity costs in the province. I can't imagine what our electricity bill is, and maybe I don't want to. I think there's 5% goal. I think that would be easily achievable. I think probably I could do that for you. I'm thinking we're going to vastly surpass that in fairly short order. And we have several significantly sized facilities in the community that would easily benefit from an energy audit. So I truly support it. And I think it's a no-brainer. So as soon as we get a motion in front of us, I'll read it out. No rush.
Okay, well, he's, yeah.
Perfect. I think that makes sense. Thank you. So I'll move that council approve a maximum of $269,585 over 2 years for staffing resources to support the development and implementation of an energy management plan, of which $180,000 will be funded through the Municipal Energy Manager Program and $89,585 of municipal funding to be split over 2 years to be included in the 25 and 26 City of Fort Saskatchewan budgets.
Okay, thank you. Any has spoken to this? Is there any discussion and debate? Okay, not seeing anything on close?
Nothing further,
You're
thank you.
good. The motion is now closed. We'll just wait for it to come up. Please cast your vote as soon as it comes up. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, the next ones we have are property tax waiver requests. Trish Norman presenting.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of Council. I am Trish Norman, Revenue Services Coordinator. I'm here this afternoon to request Council's decision regarding 3 property tax late payment penalty waiver requests.
Can you just move the mic a little closer, maybe? There you go.
The first request is from property owner of tax roll 3022000. On July the 10th, 2024, the City of Fort Saskatchewan received an application and supporting document from the property owner requesting a waiver for property tax late payment penalties in accordance with property tax penalty waiver policy and procedure. As of July 29th, 2024, the property owner has paid the full balance of outstanding property tax arrears, including late payment penalties. The property owner has consequently made an application for council to consider late payment penalty reimbursement under error in fact, as outlined in the application. Administration is not authorized to waive these penalties since this authority is prescribed to council as per the Municipal Government Act. The city relies on property taxes for the funding of city operations and requires that taxes be received on a timely basis. Penalties for late payments on property taxes are assigned to properties to encourage residents to pay their property taxes by the due date. The city provides notice and time for property owners to pay their property taxes. Several payment options exist, allowing property owners to ensure their payments are received by the due date of June 30th. This includes post-dated checks, online payments, and the Ford electronic payment plan, which allows for taxes to be paid via monthly installments. Administration recommends that the request to waive the late payment penalties be denied since the application does not align with the criteria in the property tax penalty waiver policy. I can now answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this one? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
I appreciate the positive wording of the motions. Thank you. And we had that discussion some time ago. I move that council approve the waiver of late payment penalties for tax roll 3022000, I think, in the amount of $85.90. Mayor Katcher, I'm unable to speak in favor of my own motion. But we need to deal with this motion as it's been put in front of us, which requires council to cast a vote on it, and somebody needs to make the motion so that we can cast a vote. So nothing further to say. Thank you.
Okay, that's correct. Is there a discussion and debate on the motion? Not seeing any. Anything on close? You're good. Okay, the motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And the motion is defeated, 7-0. All right, you may proceed with the next one.
The next request comes from the property owner for tax roll 4710504. On July the 24th of 2024, the City of Fort Saskatchewan received an application from the property owner requesting a waiver for property tax late payment penalties in accordance with the property tax penalty waiver policy and procedure. As of July the 15th, 2024, the property owner has paid the full balance of the outstanding property tax arrears, including late payment penalties. The property owner has consequently made an application for council to consider late payment penalty reimbursement under error in fact as outlined in the application. Administration recommends that the request to waive the late payment penalties be denied since the application does not align with the criteria in the property tax penalty waiver policy. I can now answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this one? Not seeing any. I'll take a motion. Go ahead, Councillor Nguyen.
Yeah, I can make the motion that council approve the waiver of late payment penalties for tax roll number 4710504 in the amount of $80.44.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it?
Nothing to comment.
All right, thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. Not seeing any. Anything on close? You're good. Motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is defeated unanimously. All right, you may proceed.
The final request comes from the property owner for tax rolls 1353127 and 0755000. On August the 1st, 2024, the City of Fort Saskatchewan received an application and supporting documents from the property owner requesting a waiver for property tax late payment penalties in accordance with the property tax waiver policy and procedure. As of August 1st, 2024, the property owner has paid the full balance of outstanding property tax arrears, including late payment penalties. The property owner has consequently made an application for council to consider late payment reimbursement based on compassionate grounds, as outlined in the application. Administration recommends the request to waive the late payment penalties be approved since the application aligns with the criteria in the property tax penalty waiver policy. I can now answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this one? Not seeing any. Wish of council? Go ahead, Councillor Macon.
I'll make the motion that council approve the waiver of late late property tax payment penalties for tax roll 1353127 in the amount of $9.15 and tax roll 0755000 in the amount of $194.16.
Okay, thank you. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
I do not.
Thank you. It's open for discussion and debate. I'm just going to make a comment that I think the policy sets it out quite nicely for administration to really be able to weigh what actually fits within the policy and if it is for compassionate. And I think it takes away some of the guessing and the gray areas. So we greatly appreciate the analysis that you're able to do on those based on the information. So thank you for that. Anything further on discussion and debate?
Nothing for me.
Anything on close? You're good. The motion is now closed. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving right along. 9.5 was under consent. Are there any notice of motions? Okay. Okay, points of interest. Councillor Macon.
Thank you. Last night at the Dow Centennial Center was hosted a community showcase event where a number of volunteer organizations came out. The community could come and go around and look for different volunteering opportunities, and I thought it was really well done. That was put on by FCSS as well as the Chamber of Commerce. So it was well attended and had lots of vendors, and I thought that it was really well received.
Great, thank you. And I think the biggest point of interest that we heard this week, and it actually made the Thursday paper because they were embargoed, was the gift that Dow was giving to the city and to the food bank. And those are totally legacy gifts that they're giving. So we express our gratitude and thanks to Dow for what they're doing. I want to thank Paul for all the work he had to do in secret on the contract agreements, and for Troy and anybody else he had in the group, because working on it, it's so exciting, but you've got to keep it a secret. So a lot of hard work was done on that, and I can't even imagine, Paul, how many days or even weeks you spent putting that agreement back and forth. And I apologize, I didn't acknowledge you at the event, that all the work that you did, but I think you deserve it here, so thank you. All right, any other points of interest? Not seeing any. Councillor inquiries to administration. Go ahead, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I believe it was this morning, Mr. Fleming, that I noticed in the media a couple cases of Dutch elm disease showing up in the city of Edmonton. There's not a city or a town probably in Western Canada that doesn't have very mature elm trees, and a significant financial investment in them, obviously, but a significant emotional investment as well. And I would add, just for clarity, that I now have 2 30-foot high, 16-inch elm trees in my backyard. That is very significant investment. So is the city, and I know I've pushed on this before, but would it be possible for administration to review our procedures for handling elm tree refuse and husbanding, that's probably not the proper word, caring for our elm forest in the community, and just make sure that we're on top of and ready for what is apparently likely going to happen?
Yeah, through your worship, I will take that comment back, and we'll have a discussion with staff and follow up with council with some more information.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions of administration? If not, I'll take a motion to go in camera. Councillor Abatoye, go ahead.
Sure, I'll make a motion of going camera.
All right, thank you. Close the motion. Please cast your vote. And that is carried unanimously. So we will go to in camera. Thank you.